everyone, welcome to the last week of Code Sprint A. So this week we're wrapping up front-end development, and then we are moving next week, if you're in Code Sprint B, into thinking about persistence of data and data stores. So we're almost there for Code Sprint A. I know that this has been very stressful for some of you because this is where the synthesis happens in the course, where you're no longer following me, creating something step by step. You have to step out into uncharted territory to make your own thing, which is hard. The process that you're going through, though, is where the real learning happens and where the real confidence building happens. Because once you build your own project once, you'll have so much more confidence and so much more knowledge going forward, tackling other applications. So almost there, and keep in touch, reach out if you are having problems, and I have expanded office hours this week, so we can meet, we can look at your project, we can work through wherever you're stuck. So with that, I want to switch over to the canvas here and walk through a couple of things. So we have week 5, like we've had other structures. This matches the same structure as other weeks. We've got an overview, we've got a link to the optional class, some assignments, and then solutions from the tutorials. So in week 5, here's this video where you're watching it. There is the final project assignment and the final project feedback assignment as the only 2 required assignments for this week. And then there are a couple of optional assignments. So let's start with the required assignments. There is the final project assignment. So the final project you've been working on over the course of multiple weeks here, and you've had multiple milestones that count towards your final project grade. So this last milestone is worth 60% or 60 points of that final project grade. So it's really important, and this is where I am looking for all of these requirements. So it should be a React project, it should not have any compile errors, you should use semantically meaningful markup, you should use BEM naming conventions, etc. So as you're submitting, it's really important that you go through and you check off these requirements and make sure that you've got them in your project. There is an additional requirement if you're in 450, where I'm looking for more programming expertise, more JavaScript expertise. And if you're in programming 550, I'm looking for more documentation of your project. And both of these you can do so if you're in 550, you can do the 450 requirement for up to 3 points of extra credit. And same thing, if you're in 450, you can do the 550 requirement for up to 3 points of extra credit. So make sure you go through this, you submit everything to me, you make sure your application is deployed to Vercel, that you have your updated GitHub repository and Kanban board. So just make sure you check all of those before you submit. And one thing that I do want to mention, because I know we have a lot of folks in here without programming experience prior to this class. So one thing to keep in mind is that with all of these assignments, there's a lot of partial credit. So you submit something to me that has most of these requirements, you're probably going to end up doing okay on the assignment. So don't stress out and keep yourself from submitting something just because you're missing one of these bullet points. Okay, so that's the final project. Then there is the final project feedback assignment, where each person in the class has gone back through in that project progress channel and updated their post or replied to that thread with their wireframes and a link to the alpha version of their application. So at this point, we're going to be going back through those project posts, and everyone is going to be leaving feedback for 2 of your peers. So now we've got a thing that you can interact with, so you can see their application, you can use it. Keep in mind that this will be in the alpha state for most folks. So as you're giving feedback, keep in mind that this isn't the complete version, but you can give feedback on how the application works, did it work as you expected, why or why not, what could they add to their idea to make it even better. So you're going to go through, give your peers feedback, and one suggestion that I would have to all of you is make sure that as you're working this week, you keep pushing changes to your alpha version so that whenever folks go to give you feedback, they will be seeing the most recent version of your project. So that's it for required work for this week. And then there are 4 optional things here. So there's a video on lifting the state. And so this is when you have some data that you want to share across multiple pages or components. This video walks through how to do that in a sample application. So many of you will be trying to do that in your final project, so this will be a useful video for you to go through as you're trying to work through that. Then there are 2 extra credit assignments. So there's one on polishing the trivia game, and so through this you will learn a couple of new libraries like React Helmet and Framer Motion, and you'll be adding animation and transitions to the quiz game. So this is optional extra credit, and the other one that is optional extra credit is using local storage. So many of you may be trying to persist some data for the user so they can close the browser and come back later and have their data like sort of pulled up like in a to-do list. Maybe we would save the items for the current user into local storage so when they come back to it, they can see the items they entered before. So if you want to do that in your final project, this video will help you do it. Again, extra credit, optional. And then the last bullet point here is to set up a virtual office hours meeting with me to review your project and your progress, your scope, your roadblocks. I recommend you do that earlier in the week rather than later. I have some expanded office hours this week. I have some evening times. So take advantage of that. And the earlier you meet, the better we'll be able to keep you on track. One important note with all of these, let's go to one of these assignments, like the final project here. So CodeSprint A is ending, which means class is done, grades need to be submitted. So the submissions are only open till the 13th at midnight. So this is different than our usual submission period where it's open for 5 days. So be sure to get your assignments in on time because once these submissions close, grades need to go in and there are no late submissions past that. Okay, so we are in the home stretch of CodeSprint A. Next week we will be in CodeSprint B. We'll be talking about databases and ways that we can store data persistently for our applications. So what's going to happen is we're kind of going to have a moment to catch our breath after the end of this sprint as we start new material. And it's going to be structured similarly, where I'm going to kind of walk you through building some practice assignments. And then we are going to start thinking about our final project in CodeSprint B, where you're going to be working with data and saving data. So you'll be very likely taking your final project from CodeSprint A, bringing it over to CodeSprint B, having a chance to continue working on it, and having a chance to build the database side of your final project. So keep at it. We're in the home stretch here for CodeSprint A. Reach out if you have questions, and I'll see you this week.